Hello, everyone, and thank you again for joining us for today's expert webinar. Today's webinar, as you can see from the screen, is Cut the Noise, Devise a Comprehensive Integrated Strategy Based on Accurate Information, which is brought to you by Tukatalks. I'm Heather Thorpe from Just Style, a website for the apparel industry, and I'll be your moderator for today. Just before we get into today's presentation, I do have a couple of very quick housekeeping points for you. So today's presentation will be around 50 minutes long with the opportunity for a Q&A. So please do send in your questions. I'd encourage you to send them in as you think of them, pop them into the questions box in your GoToWebinar menu, and we'll get through as many as we can live for you today. If we can't get through them all, then I'm sure we can ask our speakers to respond to you offline. So we'll do our best to get back to you. We are making an audio-visual recording of today's event. So you'll be able to watch it again on demand and share with your colleagues if you decide. Finally, if you do experience any technical difficulties during the presentation, then please do feel free to contact me through the chat box or the questions box, and I'll do my best to help. So before we get going, let me introduce you to the two expert panelists who will be presenting today. You can see their lovely faces on the screen right now. To introduce today's event and really to set the scene for you, we first of all will be hearing from Sareen, and he's the chairman and founder of Tukatalks. So for half a century, Sareen has served the garment industry with an extensive history characterized by one word: disruptive. This philosophy is ingrained in Tukatalks, the fashion technology solutions company Sareen founded in 1995. Tukatalks is credited with successfully bringing digital pattern making to dozens of countries and is an innovative leader in virtual sample making for design and fit with real-time motion simulation. They were the first to develop and implement on-demand manufacturing processes and are known for advanced cutting room solutions. Tukatalks' robust systems are implemented by fashion experts from all corners of the garment industry. Following on from Ram will be global garment industry specialist David Birnbaum, who again you can see on your screen. David also comes with a lifetime of experience in the international garment export industry, and to put it simply, he solves problems, develops solutions, and implements one-of-a-kind strategies. Throughout his career, David has worked in 36 countries where he has constructed, operated, and owned factories. He's taught advanced courses at FIT's Graduate School, the Institute of Textile and Clothing, the Hong Kong Polytechnic University, and authored and published 7 books, each tackling the industry's most pressing issues. David currently writes and publishes the Birnbaum Report and also bi-monthly articles for Just Style, which discuss and explain our highly complicated and multifaceted industry. So without further ado, now you know a little bit about our speakers, I will pass you straight over to Sareen, who will be kicking off today's webinar for you. So over to you, Ram.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and greetings to everybody. Let me also set the stage up a little bit. This is not, and I repeat, not a sales or services seminar. Both of us are doing this under what we call the Tukatalks platform, which is to share knowledge and help the industry while we can. Utilize our experience. As I keep telling all the young people, listen to the older people, because you can't live long enough to make all your mistakes. So here we are talking about few things which actually make a lot of sense, especially in dire conditions that we are all facing globally. Every problem has a solution. You know, the biggest problem is to find the problem. identify the problem. I want to show you your cutting room because I travel in almost every possible country. Can you please identify if this is your factory? Can you see how you are taking care of 3/4 of your investment, the fabric? 75% of your total cost is fabric. And if this is how you're doing it, and this is not just one country, this is India, Bangladesh, Pakistan, Sri Lanka, Malaysia, Indonesia, Cambodia, Vietnam, you name it. The only excluding countries here are the North American and South American countries, even some European countries. Why is it that we continue to do this? Is it because the labor is too cheap, or at least we think the labor is too cheap? Or it is the blind who's leading the blind? I am going to run another session, separate session, only discussing cutting rooms. But for now, what I want to mention here is all of us who are the owners, who are the managers, who are the stakeholders in this business have seen this in our cutting rooms. Many of you have had heated discussions with me, and you've tried to justify why this is extremely important for you to continue to do that. Well, I have news for you. When you're paying $20 an hour in America or very high wages in Europe, you can't afford to hire more people. You can't afford to throw away material. You start looking for solutions. So we are now looking at a small little thing called trolley. In that trolley system, I have one person who's replacing 8 to 10 people, doing an amazing job, and the cost is only $1,500. The sadness of all the technology vendors in Asia, and shame on all of them who are not going to even offer this. Two reasons for that. One is maybe they are not even educated and experienced to show the difference and help the industry, or they are just trying to push a $50,000 automatic spreading machines. I have nothing against automatic spreading machines, but I very strongly believe that you need to go from walking to crawling to running, rather crawling to walking to running, before you go from crawling to straight running. You will fall down. Every automatic spreading machine I've seen, they have refitted little platforms because they are just bypassing all the mechanism, and they still have 3 or 4 people running. If you are going to go automatic spreading, then you must have manless spreading machines. Anyway, we will have a one full session. I wanted David and I to spend time for first you to understand A, you have a problem, B, you need to identify that, and C, listen to guys like David who can help in giving you the right direction. I pass it on to David, and I will continue to interact with him. Thank you, David. Take it from here, please.
Hello, my name is David Birnbaum. Okay, so the subject today is, here we are, bullshit and the decline of the global garment industry. This is an exercise in strategic development. We all agree that the garment industry faces very serious problems. We are living in a time when we have the COVID-19 virus. We are living in a time when we're in a state of recession. The question is, what caused the problem? There are people today that look at the problem as the virus and the recession, which we in the industry can do nothing about. So the feeling is we sit tight, do our best, and when the virus disappears and the recession comes to an end, we can return to normalcy. However, there are other people who believe that the real problem is not the virus. It is not the recession. The real problem predates that. And if that's the case, when the virus comes to an end, the recession is over, we're to be stuck with the problem. How could we tell? How could we tell one from the other? Okay. The problem we face here is that every problem has a solution. I've been doing this for many years. However, we cannot solve the problems we face today because we are all drowning in a sea of bullshit. So for the next 45 minutes or less, I am going to explain to you how to get rid of the bullshit and how to resolve the intractable problems. We're going to be using Bangladesh and India, two major garment exporting countries, as models to show you how you can create your own practical strategies. We want to find out whether the problem predates the virus and the recession, or whether the virus and the recession are the cause of the problem. How do we do that? Well, we look back. We take a period of 10 years from 2010 to 2019, before the virus, before the recession, and we see how did Bangladesh, how did India do during this period. The first way to do this is to look at exports. People think this is the obvious conclusion. And if you look at the exports, you can see that from 2010 to 2019, Bangladesh did tremendously. They started at 15 billion and they wound up at 40 billion. India did tremendously. They started at 898 million and they wound up with 14 billion. Cambodia did tremendously. So from this chart, we can see proof positive that the problem is the virus, the problem is the recession. This is bullshit. This is true bullshit. We live in a global industry. It doesn't matter how well you're doing. It matters how well you're doing compared to your competitors everywhere. In bad times, your exports might be falling, but perhaps the rate of decline for you is less than it is for other people, in which case your market share has gone up. Likewise, in good times, maybe you're exporting more, but the market share is not going up. The market share is declining, and that means that your customers are taking business away from you and sending it to your competitors. You look at the charts we have here, and the graphs are pictures. It looks like a perfect solution for Bangladesh. It looks like India is doing really well. Okay, they had slight problems in 2018-19, but they're doing very well. And Cambodia, which I'm using as a standard, did great. But when you move into market share, you can see the problem. It isn't as great as we thought. Yes, Bangladesh is doing very well, but in the period 2018-2019, they're not improving that much. India, the market share peaked in 2016 and has been falling ever since. Yes, it's doing a lot better now than 2010, but it is in a state of decline. Cambodia is the one great winner. So we think this is the answer. We can see what's happening because of market share. And I have to tell you, this too is bullshit. Because to understand the trend, understand what's happening, you have to look at how it changes from year to year. So you see how it is 2011 compared to 2010, 2012 compared to 2011. And when you start looking at this, here you have Bangladesh in the market share, India declining market share, Cambodia doing well. But when you look at the industry changes, we can see that Bangladesh had a tremendous run up to 2016. The increase in 2016 over 2015 was 28%, 23%, 9%. But after that, in 2017, the increase was only 0.5%. The increase in 2018 was only 6.3%, far down. India, you can see market share has been declining. The change in market share has been declining just about every year since 2011. Only Cambodia seems to be doing well. You look at the pictures. Okay, we have two lines here. One is the actual changes from year to year. The other one is a trend line. For those people in love with statistics, it is a third order binomial trend. You don't have to take a course in statistics to do this. Your Excel computer program will do this for you. You can see Bangladesh, the trend line, peaked between 2016 and 2017, and then the trend started falling. And we know from information from data released by the Bangladeshi government that in the second half of 2019, market share fell. And in November, last month they released information, it declined 11% compared to the period in the previous year. We can see here that India has been in a state of decline since 2011. It peaked at an improvement of 12.1%, and it's in minus. It's been in minus for the last 2 years. Oddly enough, only Cambodia is doing well. And it has ups and downs, but you can see that in 2019, it looked ahead. When we take a look at this period, 2010 to 2019, we can see how 2020 fit into this previous trend. India, they did pretty well in January, February, March. From April on, it went into a state of collapse. The improvement in June showed that the exports in India were $150 million that month, compared with $370 million in the previous month. Market share peaked in March and then fell every single month. The slight improvement in June is not bringing them up. Bangladesh. The exports in Bangladesh moved down every single month, although there was an improvement in June. The market share peaked in April and then it collapsed. So the question is, if the problem is not the virus, if the problem is not the recession, then what is the problem? We look at India. India is potentially a great industry. It has probably the best fashion and design knowledge in Asia. They should be at the top, but they face serious problems. It has the highest rate of attrition in the world. In our study that we were employed by the Indian government and the AEPC, we saw a rate of attrition of 12% a month. Indian factories fail to follow existing labor regulations. It's a fact of life. It has low productivity, low level of training. It has uneven quality, excessively long lead times. However, all of these problems have a common cause. And this is the issue. Our industry, our industry is seasonal. In a non-seasonal industry, every month should export the same percentage of goods, 8.333%. Because 8.333% times 12 is 99.99%. But our industry is different. If you look at the blue line, you can see that in our industry, January, February are reasonably good months, above 8.3%. After that, after that, it falls down and moves up again June, July, August, September, October. Because the January, February is the spring season, the lightweight goods, and June, July, August, September, October is the heavyweight winter goods and the holiday goods. India only has one season. You can see this. India has a great January, a great February, a great March, and then after that goes into a constant decline. How can an industry survive that fails to produce fall season, holiday season merchandise? Why does it happen? This is the basis of the problem. Again, high rate worker attrition, of course. As the orders fall, factories have to lay off workers. Failure to follow existing labor regulations, well, you have to lay off the workers whether it's legal or not. Management has no choice. Low productivity, yes, if you're laying off your workers, you can't train them. High rate of attrition because the high rate of attrition is the factories cannot invest in worker training. Without worker training, productivity remains low. And the interesting thing is the uneven quality and the excessively long lead times is an indication of the fundamental problem. What is the fundamental problem? It's fabric. This is really an exceptional situation. Of the leading garment exporters in the world, India has the lowest rate of fabric imports, 1.4% global market share. You look at countries like that have great industry, have great textile industries, China, Italy, and you see that China's import fabric market share is 7.3%. In Italy, sorry, is 3.2%. The question is, why don't Indian factories import fabric? Because if they can't import fabric, they can't have a full season, and if they can't have a full season, the industry is going to have to fail. And so, if you look at a solution, the only possible solution is to encourage fabric imports. The solution is duty-free imports for all fabric. Immediately you have cost savings. From one season industry, you have a year-round industry. Seasonal layoffs disappear. Factories can follow existing labor regulations. Factories can commit to more worker training. Factories can have greater productivity. There are hidden costs. The mills in India, for the most part, produce gray goods. So the factories have to buy the gray goods and send the fabric to local dyers and finishers. These are often substandard. The results are often substandard. But the factory has no recourse. The factory, if the dyer and finisher fails, they can't return the fabric. They have a choice. The choice is to produce the garments and ship them to the customer, knowing that it might be unacceptable. This is why India has a reputation for uneven reliability. At the same time, delivery from the dyer finishers are often late, which gives rise to the dual delivery concept. You talk to Indian manufacturers, and they tell you quite frankly, there's an industry time for lead times, and there's an India time for lead times. Our lead times are India. That's the problem. The question is, will this hurt the textile industry? And this is the remarkable thing. India is home to the world's third largest textile exporting industry after China and Italy. They ship all over the world. They ship to countries where they are charged duty. They ship to countries. They're shipped to countries where they have to pay there's logistic costs, there's freight costs, and they ship successfully. If they can do that, if they can export successfully, they must be able to compete effectively in their own market, where they have no duty, no import tariffs, no non-tariff barriers. The second part, this is really dangerous, is they might be what we call a captive customer syndrome. If the local customers are unable to import goods, they're often forced to pay a higher price than the foreign importers for the same goods. Now, under WTO regulations, this is illegal. You cannot, a country cannot charge less for exports than you do for domestic production. The solution is not to subsidize, not to lower ethical standards. The government must play a role, a negative role. They must provide a level playing field. India's garment industry should be one of the world's most successful. In a free market, India could become the Italy of Asia without exaggeration. Depends on whether the government wants to play the role. Okay, Bangladesh. Bangladesh also has some great assets. They're reliable, the quality is reasonable, and the FOE price is among the lowest in the world. I'll go further. On average, Bangladesh's FOE price are the lowest in the world. And yet, Bangladesh seems to be facing one terrible problem. Their industry is failing. You ask Bangladeshi people what's the problem, and they tell you, quite frankly, the customers will not pay a decent price. We in some cases have to ship below cost. And actually, I have to tell you, the Bangladesh Garment Manufacturers and Export Association and their members are 100% correct. They have the lowest prices, and very often those prices are below cost. However, the problem is that they're holding the picture upside down. This is a classic case of bullshit, the two-dimensional data, all of which brings us back to where we started. We have to look at this problem in a three-dimensional way. The question is not why are customers paying Bangladesh factories so little. The real question is why are customers paying everybody else so much more? I want you to consider, take this home with you, the FOB prices for the 8 largest Bangladesh garment products. The most important product they have is men's cotton pants, not denim. Bangladesh's price is the lowest in the world. If for shorts, it's the third lowest after Cambodia and Pakistan. Men's jeans, the third lowest after Pakistan and Sub-Saharan Africa. Men's cotton woven shirts, the lowest in the world. Women's jeans, the lowest in the world. Women's cotton pants, cotton other than jeans, the second lowest in the world. Cotton sweatshirts and pullovers, the second lowest in the world. Men's cotton t-shirts, the lowest in the world. You can't get any lower than that. You can't say that there's a problem of cost. You are already charging the lowest price. I have to explain something about price and cost. Cost is what the supplier pays for materials and labor. Price is what the customer pays. Costs are quantifiable. Price is about value. It's the value that is the value that the customer looks at the product. No customer cares about the supplier's cost. You think for yourself. You go into a pharmacy and you want to buy a tube of toothpaste. Do you really care what the Colgate people paid for the material, what they paid for labor, what they paid for the manufacturing cost? No, you pay for what you want. In some cases, you want ecologically friendly toothpaste. Other cases, you want toothpaste that has a whitener. You think that is worth more than the regular toothpaste, so you pay for it. You buy a car. Why would anybody buy a Porsche? It's $100,000. There's no justification except the fact that the person who buys a Porsche sees the value in the Porsche, and he has $100,000. That's what this is about. The customers pay Bangladesh less than its competitors because the customer believes that Bangladesh garments are worth less. Bangladesh is losing business because even though they have the lowest FOB price in the world, customers do not believe even in this low price the product is worth the money. This is a terrible conclusion. So, let me slide. Sorry. Huh. How can the government must recognize that they must come to terms with a problem? And the problem is not price. It is not quality. It is not delivery. But unless Bangladesh industry recognizes the problem, the 6,000 plus factories and the 4 million workers may not survive. So what's the problem? The problem is ethical. The problem is about how Bangladesh workers are treated. Low wages, excessive overtime, poor working conditions, unsafe factories. The problem is about Bangladesh factories, how they deal with the environment, pollution, sustainability, global warming. People in Bangladesh brag about the fact that they have sustainable factories, 33 platinum sustainable factories. There are 6,000 factories in the country. 33 factories is what? Is a fraction of 1%. The problem is that in today's consumer-driven market, factories, entire national industries that fail to meet the standards, corporate social responsibility, will become outlaws. We have a second problem. That even if the Bangladesh industry accepts the first problem and decides to make the concerted effort to solve that problem, no solution on Bangladesh's part is possible. And the problem is that creating a solution will require at least 2 years. 1 year to analyze the full extent of the problem, devise a strategic solution, 1 year to implement the strategy to the point where measurable results could be achieved. Given the current circumstances, few governments will be willing to continue the current level of business for 2 years while waiting for a solution because the industry lacks the credibility. The solution? This is really tough. 1, accept the problem. 2, bring in outsiders to solve the problem. Bring in the industry's version of our own inglorious bastards. Bring in Greenpeace for the problems of the environment. Bring in the International Trade Union Confederation for the problems of compliance. Give them a free hand. 6 months to carry out a complete investigation and publish a detailed report. 6 months to create and publish a viable strategy to overcome the deficiencies. And then have a commitment to implement the strategy. Customers want to work in Bangladesh. They don't want to leave. Greenpeace and ITUC will give them a reason to stay because they have credibility. Because if you treat them badly, they'll walk away. This is the solution. The difficulty is, yes, every strategy comes with a cost. In the case of India and Bangladesh, the cost can be very high. And I don't mean very high in terms of money. But given the problems facing India and Bangladesh, the strategic value of the solutions must exceed the cost. Thank you. Okay,
Wonderful.
ready for
Wonderful.
questions.
Hey, David,
Yes.
um, on your last slide, it reminded me of a little personal incident.
Hmm.
About 25 years ago, I was brought into hospital, almost declared dead. But I could hear the doctor asking me, "Can I give you the ra, ra, ra?" And I had no idea what he's asking. Later, I found out that he was talking about one injection. So I asked him, "Why were you asking me?" He said, "Because the cost of the injection was $4,500, and that would have saved your life." I said, "What do you think I was going to do? Here I am lying, ready to die, and you're telling me or giving me a choice. What am I going to do? Negotiate with you? No, 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 no. Give it to me for $2,000 or let me die." This is where we are in the industry. We have to do or die. There are not just one issues. There are thousands and thousands of factors around. I want to take a couple of minutes and discuss China for a few minutes to evaluate. A lot of people don't understand, especially the sourcing companies, the buying houses. China will show you what they want you to see. If you are a QC company, sourcing company, if you are a compliance company, it doesn't make a difference. So let's just look at it as our biggest disadvantage. And I speak for the rest of the world. China will control their cost however they want to. You don't have any ways to verify whether the labor was the right labor or the cost of the material was the right one, and so on. They did a super job by preparing to go to war and do their winning on multiple fronts by training their workforce. I remember going to China back in 2005 and 6 because I was working with a machinery company, and I had the opportunity to go to the factories. And I tell you something, guys, every one of you should listen to this one and pay attention. 65% of all products which were being produced were seconds and going into garbage. And they didn't care. They didn't care because what they were doing was using the order, having the material, and train their workforce. They didn't care whether they were making money or not. And that is what long term planning is all about. If you can plan it, it doesn't matter what it costs, but you got to stay on course. We have a very old saying in America, either you're pregnant or you're not. You can't be little bit pregnant. Both in India and Bangladesh, I see everybody is trying to find just a band aid, just get it over with. Anybody who's listening from India, and thankfully, I have, I think we saw the registration from 51 countries, more than 300 people. So I speak for India, jugaad. Anyone remember that word, jugaad? It, in translation, is just innovative way to get over with the problem. Find a temporary solution. Sadly, this is not a temporary solution that we have. We have to
Ram,
find a permanent solution.
Ram, people don't know this, but the wages in South China, Pearl River Delta, are well over 10 times the wages in Bangladesh. But the Chinese are the only country in the world that can compete with Bangladesh on price. Why? Because Bangladesh productivity is, on average, is about 40% of China. Why? Because Chinese factories work on very thin margins. They make it up in volume. And Chinese factories are reliable. Might not like them, but hell, they know what they're doing. We can learn from them.
David,
Any other?
I agree with two things. Cost of labor is not a factor. At the end of
Tell
the day, every cost, if this has got any human being involved, will continue to rise. It's just a matter of time. I tell everyone, don't invest anything, don't make a change. You already have an investment. Now, if you do not make a change, do an ROI of zero investment, when will you go out of business? There will be a time very soon you will close up because the margin between your cost going up with labor versus the selling price that is demanded by the industry will erode so quickly that eventually you'll get up and say, you know what, it's not worth being in this business. That's when you will close up. That's your ROI. Change is constant. The only way you're going to do good is you look for the problems, you identify and you fix. You go low hanging fruit with a faster, better results. As David, you put it in, India has tremendous talent when it comes to design. It has tremendous output when it comes to special products. But India, Bangladesh have to stop looking at what other countries are doing. Stop comparing themselves that, oh, we are not able to do this because no, you have to look at whatever has been dealt with you. How do you make the best of it? And you know something? You've got amazing, amazing opportunities in India. Do
the
it. The
you know
design, the products.
the mistake that people make, that industries make, is they want to be the next China. India should be the next India. Bangladesh should be the next Bangladesh. Other countries should be thinking, oh, I'd like to be the next India. And you can do that. And one thing, do you know what the value of direct labor is as a percentage of retail? It's less than 1%. You're talking about somewhere in the neighborhood of 0.6%. Don't you think that if you want to do better, that you should look to save money the other 99.5%? This is the problem. People get trapped. The good news is that in this circumstances, the new people, the people with new ideas, the people who are willing to go forward, the people who are not trapped with the baggage of the past, they're going to build an industry. They'll be the successes of the future.
I don't want to be negative. Um, I want to take some of the positive stuff and I very strongly believe it is just a matter of thinking how you think. Look at Ambani's Reliance. Look at some of the people who really gave a run to Walmart, who are giving a run to Amazon, while we are sitting here and crying about what Walmart is doing and what Amazon is doing to the retail and other places. India doesn't give a shit. They don't. When you have people, this morning's news, when they have people coming in and spending billions of dollars to buy less than 2% stake of Indian retail with Ambani, why? Why can't we think the global opportunities rather than just thinking we've got to export? Export what? Why are we exporting raw material when we can make an amazing product with added value in there? The embroideries, the skills, the products that we can make for off season that we think, why are we waiting for customers to come in and design and then tell us? Why can't we go in and say, this is going to be an amazing product for your such and such season and such and such season? You mean to tell me India doesn't have winters? They have winters. They make clothes. Why are we just losing the opportunities in months where we don't have any exports? It
Ram,
is
Ram,
just a matter of thinking, my friend.
Ram,
We,
you,
we-
you and
I'm sorry, David. I want to take one more minute.
okay,
Canada. I lived in Canada for 17 years and learned many, many things. 22 million people in a huge big country with such diversity when it came to living style, the atmosphere, the temperature, the weather, and yet everybody wanted to grow in the garment industry. We created ourselves a very versatile industry where the operators were sewing silk in the morning, wool in the afternoon, and cotton in the evening. That's the only way we could grow. We had to make versatile factories. We had to come up with multiple products to be able to increase the volume. We are
Ram,
sitting there. Yeah,
Ram, Ram, I think you and I see things the same way, and we're doing things the same way. I'm working on projects today, as I'm sure you are, that 3 years ago would have been considered totally visionary, unbelievably weird. And these will be successful areas in the industry. The whole industry is changing. The idea of the customer, the idea of the factory, the idea of the middleman, those definitions are all disappearing.
yeah.
And there is a new industry and there'll be new leaders. People are going to buy clothing. They might not buy as many clothing, things like fast fashion might disappear, but there will be leaders and there will be people 10 years from now that will look back at this moment and this was the beginning. That's what we have to look
We have some questions, David.
for.
I'm
Okay.
going to read out the first question.
Okay.
Question is, how do we know whether the data we are looking at is telling us the whole story rather than bullshit?
You have to trace down. This is really what it's about. We started off explaining, oh yes, it's all about export. Oh no, it's all about market share. But we have to trace down to where we're going. And the information, by the way, is out there. You want to know about trade? You go to the International Trade Center in Geneva. They have information on 300, up to 300 countries, exports and imports on every conceivable product. They'll go to 6 digits on HGS numbers. You have to be educated in this area, and you have to match your results, your conclusions with what happens. The problem we face today is that the strategies we have are not leading to the conclusions we expect. It's time to recognize, hey, there's something wrong. Our toolbox is screwed up. We have to learn, we have to become better educated. We have to learn from our mistakes.
I agree with you on this, but again, when it says, does it tell the whole story? No, data is data, numbers are numbers. It's just a matter of attitude. Somebody says, wow, thank God I have half a glass. And the other one says, oh, I got missing half a glass. Let me go work for and get the other half. Question now is, do we recognize the glass is only half full? Doesn't matter whether it's half empty, half full.
Ram,
You
you,
want to be
you and I,
satisfied with what you have, or do you want to go after what is missing in there?
Ram,
That is,
Ram, you and I were not born with these abilities. We had to learn, we had to study, we had to understand, we had to see from our mistakes. Anybody in our industry can do the same thing if they put how they do the input. You're right. That is just numbers. That doesn't have an opinion. Data just tells you this is what it is. And you can go, if you want American data, you go to the Office of Textiles and Apparel. Excellent data on imports into the United States.
yeah.
Okay, next
Okay,
question.
I
We have
got
another.
more questions here. This is a question on coronavirus.
Yes.
Coronavirus has forced many major buyers to rethink their supply chain. In doing so, they are not concerned about the value evaluation from Bangladesh or India, but looking at ways to reduce the volume of individual orders and to speed delivery. How does India or Bangladesh deal with this issue?
This is a very good question. The first thing you do is you recognize the need for speed to market, the need for smaller orders has nothing to do with the virus. We've been moving in that direction for 10 years. The era when some guy was going to come in and put orders for 50, 100,000 dozen on your table. If they're doing that, you're not going to make any money. You have to be able to deal with orders of under 1,000 pieces, even even for mid-sized companies, and speed to market. You know, you Hugo Boss 15 years ago built a factory in Turkey for men's suits, and that factory turned in 6 days. My God, if you can do a worsted men's suit from fabric on the table to goods packed ready to go in 6 days, what business do you have spending 6 weeks making a t-shirt? The industry is changing. You have to build for this. And it's going through a generational shift. We're all seeing this. The new generation of people taking over these family businesses have more education. They have greater knowledge of the world at large. They have to move forward to where the world is going.
I agree. I have one more thing to add in there when it comes to list of questions. Another question: are customers and brands purposely keeping their eyes closed to the problems in Bangladesh and India?
No, they're walking away. That's they don't have the Bangladesh doesn't have a license to produce. Customers work with them because they think it's worthwhile. They're finding it is not worthwhile. You have to accept that. It wasn't worthwhile starting second half of November 2019. It's worse today. It's not going to change. You have to, the customers can't afford to work there because the value you're delivering is not acceptable for the price you're charging, even though it's the lowest of the world. People have to see this.
I have to, without mentioning any names, um, there are several retailers in the United States who took the initiative on demand manufacturing business model, tied up with few companies who are, again, a couple of them are my clients. We set it up just taking a category, a product, and then focusing only on that product. Men's chino pants, available in 6 colors. As far as the customer is concerned, today, most of these companies are selling a 2-inch grade, size 30, 30, 32, 34, 36, and so on, and with the inseams, rather than offering, they now offer 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, 35, and 28, 28 and a half, 29, 29 and a half, and so on. Why? Because the customer can get that from the box or from the envelope and then put it on, and the garment fits perfectly. Now, a lot of us believe that we need to make huge quantities, and these productions are being done in low-cost countries where they get the aggregate orders at the end of the day. They don't know whether it's 15 SKUs or 150 SKUs. It is not thinking of making one garment. It is now looking at 6 colors. I now choose the color and make that color in the production. The idea behind this thing is to change your mindset. You are going to make small quantities, and it is not going to cost you extra. It's going to cost very little extra, but everyone in the chain is going to have less risk and more profitability, including the consumer who will pay a lower price and buy it again and again.
The
That is a
technology, the technology, Rab, is there.
yes.
You can do 1,000 sizes in grading
Yeah.
in less than a minute.
Yeah.
I mean, the technology is there. You have you have on-demand cutting. You have teams of people who can work, or you have which I prefer over computerized machinery. You can do it in the shortest period of time, and you don't have mark. People don't see that the cost of markdown, that is the difference between the price on the hang tag and what the store actually got after all sales and discounts. That loss is greater than the entire delivery duty paid price of the garment. And you can cut that. In the States, on fashion goods, it's approaching 35%. Means $100 garment, for crying out loud, has a $35 loss because you didn't sell the goods.
Yeah.
And that has to go. And the reason why, and it's built into the system, by the way, because companies want market share, which is why, by the way, the pure play e-commerce companies are beating the hell out of it, because the e-commerce company doesn't want market share. They want to maintain integrity because they have a world market. I have 7 billion customers. My market share should be 0.001%. That's where we're moving. And the stores can do this. The stores can compete if they understand how to cost up their own garment.
Yeah. I don't want to sound that we are tooting our own horn here in Tukatalks, but I want to take an example of one company in India, Raymond's. Raymond's is known to be one of the largest wool suiting manufacturers. And they took the initiative of educating the tailors and bringing the made to measure back into the business by adopting technology and training people. And I got to tell you something. This is an amazing initiative. I sit on their board and I am enamored by their vision, how they are teaching these tailors, the uneducated people, with technology and empowering them to create an amazing business models. So many tailors are working with technology today in India and producing one of a kind men's suits, shirts, and pants, and so on. Well, this is what I call the focus. The focus is they want to do it. It's got nothing to do with capabilities of people. These tailors are not high school graduates, they are artisans. They are now using technology to enhance their operations.
The
Technology
interesting thing,
is there to do the work. Question now is, how committed are you? I have only one advice for every executive in Bangladesh and India. Only one advice. Stop thinking that you are the owner and you are the executive, you are the boss. You are only there as a responsible person for the business, but you don't know anything. That's the
Ram,
attitude you're going to have to start with and ask people, how should we do as a team? What do you?
Ram,
Yes, sir.
Ram, you're dealing with culture, and it's really hard. We think that the greatest asset in the company are the workers. They think the workers are slaves. They think they're disposable like broken needles and bobbins. You're going to build an industry with great technology without giving worker empowerment, without training the people, without making them part of the company. That's a long, hard pull. It's not about technology anymore. It's about a culture. I'm not.
David, I am from India. I remember running a company here 40 years ago with 6,000 sewing machine operators, $700 million company. And when I started in the month of October, I was told they are going to have a Christmas party. There are going to be two parties, one for the executives and the office people, and the other one for the workers. And I put my foot down. I said, no, we're going to have one factory and it's going to be one factory party. If a sewing machine operator wants to quit, and there on the other side is a secretary who wants to quit, I say goodbye to the secretary, but I go kiss ass of the operator because the operator is the one who's making money for me. The factory is my living, the other one is my overhead. We've got to identify where is our bread buttered, and we've got
Ram,
to take care of that.
you're different. You're not the general rule. I built in my life 11 factories, and when I was building factories, I was present at every exit interview because at the exit interview, when the worker's quitting and they've made up their mind, I can hear the truth.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I'm trapped in an office and I don't know what the hell's going on. I can tell you stories. I don't want to go. I don't want to go into this one. You know, yes, you are the manager of the future. It's going to be hard. Anyway,
All right. Who has more questions? Okay. Can you speak to the high cost of re-engineering a factory?
ah,
Is it feasible for all factories? Will it require government intervention?
okay, this is really interesting. To change product from one product to another, generally speaking, you have to tear down the factory and deal with four walls. But to make it a better factory, to move from to doing commodities, doing fashion goods, the factory has to be reorganized. It's not just a matter of the machinery; it's a matter of the layout. You know, we have a mutual friend in Andhra Pradesh, and there was a time he was producing ladies' bras, which is basically a product of hell. And that garment traveled 1 kilometer in the factory from cutting to packing.
Correct.
I mean, they brought in engineers. And by the way, we both know he's a great engineer. He's a really
Yeah.
talented man. He runs one of the great factories, but he
Yeah.
brought in solid people
Yeah.
and they reduced lead times in that factory on a bra to 4 days.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
You know,
And that is being done in India. It is
yes,
just a
that was
matter of attitude.
it
It's
was
the
the
attitude.
entrepreneur. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
It,
Yeah. That is 100% correct. There is
you
another
can
question here. How can a country like India grow as a sustainable producer of artisan or labor intensive products against highly tech based market? I want to answer this one if I may.
okay.
India has the ability to produce small quantities. They aspire to produce large quantities, but those days are gone. So now let's take the benefit that we actually can do small quantities, and that's what the market needs. We can add value, artisan value, which is very hard to put the number on as far as the price is concerned. So it should be a consideration for all designers to add value rather than sell a commodity. If I'm selling a t-shirt or denim pant, everybody in the supply chain knows what my cost of material is, what my cost of labor is, what my GSD value is, and what my cutting should be. And they are not going to give you more margin because you are not efficient enough. But when you have these beads and embroideries and these extras put in there, it's very hard to put the value on that. It's the price on that. Therefore, the value is the one which is going to sell. And being able to sell smaller quantities, India has a huge opportunity to break into the market. But they have to spend time in product development. They have to find technologies to be able to visualize and do the digital setups to be able to go out to the marketplace and then make what everybody buys rather than just make and then try to sell it.
You raise a point here which is worth something, which is really important, rather. We've moved from garment buying, where we gave the whole thing to the factory to do, buy the fabric, buy the trim, produce the goods, to garment sourcing, where the customer went out and placed the order for the fabric and the trim, and leaving the factory to have CM. We now have open sourcing. You're right. The customer knows what the yardage is. They know the price of the material. They know everything, and what they're paying in many cases is how much I'm going to pay you per minute, and I'm going to pay you 6 cents per minute on everything you produce for me. And you'll come back in 6 months and we can renegotiate. There's no place anymore for money in your pocket. There's no place to say, well, it isn't 2 meters, it's 2.2 meters. It isn't $3, it's $3.20 because the customer knows. And you're right. You want to get into the fashion business where the customer is less interested in garment making and more interested in the service that you're going to supply. You do product development for the customer. My God, the customer will pay you for the cost. They'll pay you 50% more on profit, and they will come out with a savings of a minimum of $1.60, $1.70 on a garment. Talk about a $10 FOB garment. No,
I
this
have
is
one more. I have time for one more question, and that question came from you, David. So I
okay.
am going to answer that question.
Okay.
All right. The question was, what is the government help? And how can we have government help for the garment industry in countries like India and Bangladesh? My answer was very simple. Generally, entrepreneurs do not like any intervention, let alone any help. If they want help, they will have help from investment community, not from the governments. Governments helping nobody in the technical trade is the greatest example of how India has done without any government intervention. It was not help, it was not uh, holding back, but it was allowing people to think differently and think in an entrepreneurial way. My objective here is to have everyone think I am in the worst possible trouble right now, and how do I get out of it myself? If I get some help, that's wonderful, but let's start swimming because the other choice is drowning.
I agree. The role of government is to allow for a level playing field, not to pick one industry, one factory, one group over another. Let the market, let the customer decide. When the customer decides that the textile industry is more important than the garment industry, that's when you're in trouble. That's when you sign a free trade agreement, which allows Bangladesh to ship garments into India duty free, in
Yeah,
return for which they buy Indian fabric, which by the way is coming to an end after only 10
it
years.
is. It is. All right.
Okay.
Heather, back to you.
Whoa, thank you, chaps. I have to say, huge thank you to both of you, Ram and David, and your teams, obviously, for a very insightful and entertaining webinar. And I hope everybody enjoyed it. We did have quite a few questions. We didn't get a chance to do them all, so apologies for that. We'll, I'm sure, get back to you later. Thank you both for all your time and for everything that you've said today. It made a lot of sense, and I hope it got a lot of people thinking. And yeah, we look forward to hearing from you both again very soon in the future.
One parting note, this presentation, which David presented, is available in PDF format.
When we do the replay of this event, because we're recording it, we can add it to the replay page. So you'll be able to download the deck of slides. So once I've got that, we'll be able to sort that for you. So
Wonderful.
hopefully once everybody that's signed up will get a link to say you can watch it again. So it'll be nice and easy for them. So no problem. But thank you both.
I
Good
also want
evening,
to
David.
thank Chris Valia and Savannah Crawford for
Fantastic
helping put
work.
this thing together. Okay, without them, without great technical team, we old fogies have little problems. Okay.
And,
Absolutely.
yes, definitely. The fact that I'm able to speak at this at all is due to the tremendous effort of yesterday. Thank you.
Fantastic.
Take
Well
care.
done.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.
Take care. Goodbye. Thanks all.